Hey everybody, with the Consumer Technology Association, I'm Tyler Suiters. We are the owners and producers of CES, the largest, the most influential tech event on the planet, and not coincidentally, it is underway as we speak. The show runs through this Friday, January 11th, here in Las Vegas, and we are helping you to be CES ready. All this week, from the show floor, we are bringing you media roundtables. These are conversations with the journalists who cover CES, and many of whom have done so for years and years. And they're discussing how the show is framing the year ahead in technology. So today, a wrap-up from day one and our media roundtable from the show floor of CES 2019.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first day of CES 2019. You've made it to the afternoon. Your feet are probably already tired. We are excited to be here with you. I am Rachel Bohn on the communications team at the Consumer Technology Association. We want to produce CES. So excited to be here with you guys today. I have three brilliant tech journalists to my left. Right next to me, I have David Kender. He is with Review.com, so if you're looking for products and comparing products, you should go to their website first. Next to him, we have Rachel Rothman from Good Housekeeping and Hearst Publications. And at the end, Bohn from The Verge. They're an amazing source for CES coverage day and night. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's start it off. You've had like 3 hours to explore the show floor. I want to know everything you've seen. What has delighted you?
I'm going to get this one out of the way because I've already been made fun of several times. But I think the LG's rolling TV is still cool. It was cool when I saw it demoed a couple years ago, and then it was a little closer to reality and a little closer to reality. Saw it this year. It's an actual thing. I felt like they could have just had like the SKU sticker on the back and it was ready for sale. And people are actually going to buy it this year. And they added they're way past the point where they're saying, they weren't even focusing on the fact that it can roll. They're like, yeah, it can roll. But look at this other thing it can do where we bring it down to like only 25% of the screen is popping out and you can play music and make it an entertainment center. And so I
have a question about that because I haven't gotten to the show floor at all. So you're going to answer all my questions. Is it just is it a display? What form factors is it coming in? Are we going to have smartphones that roll?
Probably. But the one that they have now is just a giant rolling TV. Yeah.
Okay. Rachel, what have you seen?
I was over at SAN, so a lot of the cool stuff that I saw was in the health and the wellness arena, and particularly in the parenting and the baby sphere. I think it's a really exciting time. It's still in its nascence, but there's some really smart ideas and products coming to market to help around fertility, around tracking, and then once you have the baby and it is the scariest time in your entire life, some products that are designed to help make that time a little calmer, a little simpler, and take a little bit of the fear out of it. So that's a really exciting area for me here. And I have to say, I think once the LG price comes down a little bit more, I'll be a little bit more jazzed about it. But
Fair.
So we might actually have to fight because I think that the Samsung Wall TV is, to me personally, a little more interesting than the rollable TV, just because the idea of being able to, modularize television, put it on a wall, and just choose your size and fit the size of the TV to the size of the wall that you want, and it's like Sonos speakers. Like you buy one, and like, well, someday I'll be richer and I'll be able to get two and put a third one in another room. And so you can just like start with a small TV, and then when you get a raise, you can just make it a little bit bigger. Just have like 3 more modules to it.
I agree. Super cool, but do you think it's actually going to work? I'm curious.
Yes. I mean, that's
down. It's on the podcast.
Yeah.
You said yes.
We have seen actually a bunch of like micro LED stuff. Corsair they make like the gaming PC parts. They are really proud of themselves because they bought an entire production line for making micro LEDs so your RAM could light up, because that's an important thing to have.
It's really tiny.
RAM. Yeah,
right?
really, really tiny. And so there's something happening with micro LEDs that it is going to become legitimate. The question is, when Samsung says you can go out and buy it, how much do they really mean that? And how long will it be until you can actually go out and really buy it? Because I think that saying there's real consumer availability this year, technically it's true, but in actuality, I think it's going to be a little bit longer. And the rollable TV is probably a little bit closer to being achievable for a regular consumer.
Well, my skepticism, hairs on the back of my neck went up when they said that the TV would have infinite resolution. And I thought, well, that's cool because maybe, if I was watching Star Wars and I always kind of wanted to know, like, what's on the other side of the Millennium Falcon off camera? If I just keep adding TV, will I be able to see, like, around to the back?
Yeah. I mean, the question is, can they increase processing power? That's always the problem with all smart TVs, right? You buy a smart TV, how long will it be good enough to be able to run the apps you want? Blah 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 blah. But if the thing is modular in the first place, theoretically, one of the panels will be where the CPU is, and you'll just swap that one out.
Yeah, to that point, I say yes. It's just a matter of how long. Is it going to be this year? Probably not. Is it going to be a little longer for commercial availability? Yes. Yeah. But is it going to happen? Yes. That's 2 yeses. It's happening.
So, guys, I am kind of amazed that in this show that is really a mecca for televisions, but it is so much more than televisions. The two of the three of you went first to the TVs. I mean, that is probably what CES is known for, right, historically? But there's so many other companies here, non-traditional players that are on the show floor. So beyond the sort of traditional, what we think of as tech, what have you seen that
you were at Tech West this morning. I was there too, and it's crazy how much stuff is going on over there.
I love that there is a Tech West now, that there's a Tech East now, that there was such a demand for more space for all these companies. And we were talking before about Eureka Park, all these hidden gems down there. And it continues to grow. And for those of you who haven't been there, it's startup land, and you equated it to a science fair, which I think is the perfect equation for it. And that's a really exciting space. And there may not be 1,000 companies that you're going to find that are going to come to fruition, but there are definitely a handful in there that are super exciting.
1,200 startups in Eureka Park this year. I mean, you can totally get lots of them.
That's way too many for me to cover.
From around the world, 50 countries. Yeah. So you come to CES to see it all.
I guess the most interesting thing to me, P&G has a little gadget with a display, and it can take your picture and scan your skin.
What age were you?
What age? Yeah, was
it gives you an age.
We're not going to discuss my age on stage here. But the better part about it wasn't the face scanning stuff, because I don't know if I really trust that. It had a system for logging what makeup you use, and you could also keep notes and track what the ingredients were, so that when you want to go buy some new skincare product that comes out, you'll be able to look back at your history and be like, oh, this is relatively similar to this thing I tried a year ago, and it sucked, so I'm not going to do this. Or it was great, so I'm going to try this new thing. Because it's, keeping a logbook of, all of your beauty products that you use is a huge pain, and there's the stuff
I like that you're telling
quickly.
Me this is a huge pain.
Well, I mean,
let me tell you, it is a huge pain.
Yeah. No, I was really impressed. It was it's a real practical problem that if you just direct your tech in the direction of things that people actually have to worry about, that you can solve something smart.
And I've seen that whole space, the beauty and makeup space, getting smart just between last year and this year. I think last year maybe we saw one product. Was it Neutrogena?
I was making a baby last year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's what you were
sure.
manufacturing. But now there's 7 or 8 of those products. And similarly, you were talking about the smart baby stuff earlier. I remember when the temp track little Band-Aid thing that you put on a baby, that was 3 years ago, and now there's about 25 companies at Tech West, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these is actually going to be the best, because they're all just slight shades of variation from one to the other.
I think a lot of them are differentiating themselves with the user interface, and then also from a diagnostic perspective, what they're providing the user. So for me, it's not just knowing, okay, my child has a 98-degree fever, but also being able to track, let's say, in the bed, how they're sleeping and they're breathing and all these things, and being able to predict your child's probably going to have a cold in 24 hours. That's useful for me, to be able to know that and, figure out my day and my schedule around that, and informing me you should go see the doctor or something like that. So I think when a lot of them in that ecosystem are starting to play together, and you're getting more of a rich, robust information, and that I can then serve that up to my doctor or something, that's where it's getting interesting to me.
And yet, it's still really, I think the biggest challenge is interoperability, that none of them
saying this every
none
year
of them are on the
over
same
and over
platform.
and over.
Yeah. And they all want to develop their own app, which is, it's cool. I'm sure it's fun to develop an app, but this one doesn't talk to this one, doesn't talk to this one, and...
So on the subject of interoperability, that has actually been the best surprise for me at CES this year, which is it seems like a whole bunch of competitors are willing to work with each other's stuff. You are getting devices that have both Alexa and Google Assistant, and the biggest
maybe
surprise
even
of the
AirPlay
show,
on it
AirPlay
too.
is on all these TVs out of nowhere.
Samsung and iTunes, that was
Yeah.
amazing. I was really, it seems minor, but I'm sure to be a fly on the wall in those meetings when they were putting that deal together.
I was just picturing them hugging each other and a warm embrace and nice music in the background.
Well, not to get too in the weeds, but the deals are interesting. So Samsung has iTunes, and Bixby can talk to iTunes, but it doesn't have full HomeKit. And then everybody else has AirPlay, but they don't have the iTunes app. And then can we all just pause for a moment and realize that they're calling it the iTunes app for a thing that's on TV, which is really fascinating. There's something very, very interesting happening with these companies and the way that they've decided to work together that is different than the standards wars we've had in the past.
Yeah, last year's Secret Cabal was a really successful meeting, the one in the Cayman Islands.
So I want to take a step back for a minute and think about a lot of the products and technologies you've talked about are pinned to artificial intelligence. And I'm wondering is that the buzzword that you would say for CES 2019? And how are you seeing it play out? And where do you think it's going to be most useful for consumers?
I keep going back to healthcare, but I really think that it's the area that stands to improve the most. We have a really reactionary healthcare system right now, but to create one that is going to be proactive and informing people before they have it so that they can take preventative care, I think that that's a really great example of AI being put to really smart use. AI is definitely a buzzword. It's an umbrella term for a lot of other things that are actually happening, whether it be machine learning, all this processing that's happening on the back end.
It's a synonym for Wi-Fi
sometimes.
For
everything, exactly. It's 8K, it's 5G, it's all these things all in one. But again, I think that that's an area that has a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity that you're going to see some real true benefits in. I mean, the second Apple puts an ECG monitor on your wrist, and it has fall detection, and it becomes something that's really consumer-facing for mass market, it's really going to start changing the needle. So in 5 years, we're going to have sensors all over us that are going to be able to, provide such a rich treasure trove of information. You're going to have so many more data points outside of the doctor than you are in the doctor, and what does that then mean for creating, a total health persona for who you are?
Well, to that point, at what point is professional medicine going to start accepting the word of these consumer devices? I mean, you recently did some good reporting on that with the EKG on the
Apple Watch.
On the Apple Watch.
Yeah. So near as I can tell, the best research on what do we think of the consumer grade stuff like the EKG and the Apple Watch is use it if you really in collaboration with your doctor, but don't try and just call your doctor every time it shows you something weird. Do the basic stuff of take care of your heart. Go to the doctor when you need to.
Do the I part of the AI yourself.
Exactly, right, and because there's a concern about too many false positives actually causing a stress on the traditional healthcare system. But nobody is taking the data from these consumer-grade things as a diagnostic tool to immediately go do surgery or prescribe some medicine or something. It's more like a screening tool of, okay, well, this thing indicates that there might be something wrong. I'm going to go and get tested by a professional using more professional equipment, and then we can see what we're going to do with it.
And the amazing thing about that is it's allowing older adults to age in place. I worry about my parents who are getting older, living on their own, and I'm really excited about the things that I can install in the house to watch them remotely and that they can watch themselves remotely. They feel a little bit more in control when someone's tracking what's going on.
Do you have some, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about products that you actually own or if that is only for the three of us, but do you have some stuff that for aging parents in place that you really like?
Both my parents, my father is prone to falls, so my mother just got her first smartphone. She just got it. And so I'm waiting for her to start asking about AI. Then we know that it was truly everywhere.
How's her emoji game?
Yeah, it's not very good. But it's the fall detection, and it alerts me when something's happening at home. And I live 200 miles away. It's really good. So I can at least call a caregiver at night they don't have care during the evening hours, and that's
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff for the aging in place, but I didn't see much that was new this year. I saw the shoes that detect if you fall, and there was a belt that detected if you fall, but I think I saw those last year, too.
Last year there was a belt in the Rinker Park that expanded like a mini airbag around the waist.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I think to the point, though, that we still have several years out. You need to do the research. They need to then compare it to other sensors that are, commercial and hospital grade, and see how they're doing and react to that. We're not even remotely close to that, but asking about an area that has, the potential to be huge and to be really influential, that's a space that I think, all of us can unanimously say it's ripe for innovation, and there will be changes happening. It's not today.
Yeah, and my hope is that, regulation, or at least like standards that companies will agree on ensuring privacy for all that data that's being collected about your health, ensuring that it is staying in a place where you expect it to, that it's not leaking out, to get sold to, random advertiser, 10 down the list. I think that the technology is moving faster than our understanding of what that data is, what people could use it for, and where it could go. So that really needs to catch up to where these gadgets are.
And I was just going to say, to that point, a lot of the startups that if they wind up going belly up, then what happens? They're selling it to people don't know, and I think that that's one of the biggest causes of concern. It's not necessarily what they're doing in this moment, but what's going to happen in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Is it going to affect my insurance? Is it going to affect where I get a job and all of those things? So I do.
That does seem inevitable to a certain point, though, because even though the technology is moving very quickly, the ability to create revenue from it, that's not moving all that quickly. You're either selling pieces of plastic with microchips in it, or you're selling data or IP. And if you go belly up, you could sell 2 of the 3. Yeah.
I think as consumers, we have given this general opt-in that as long as you're providing a utility for me and you're giving me real value, I'm willing to give you information over, and I'm willing to give up my privacy to an extent. But when it comes to healthcare, I think that that's an area where it's a red flag for people, that they're not as willing, they're not as open, and it is more of the Wild West.
So you'll give up your Netflix viewing history, but
very
not your
much
heartbeat.
So, easily, happily. I'm saying this, but I've also donated blood, urine, saliva. I have my genomic code. Everything's laid out for me. So I've opted into quite a bit. It's out there in the ether. So we'll see. I did my biome to find out potential makeups that would be better suited for me, given the climate and given the conditions I'm in right now. So it's interesting where it's going within health and also within beauty, which we were talking about before, relating it all back to the environment, to your actual body and the things that are going on inside of it. It's a really fascinating space to me.
I want to note that this year, for the first time, medical professionals and doctors at CES can earn continuing medical education credit, which is a really incredible thing. It shows that the medical community wants to learn about these technologies and taking them seriously. It's going to make them do their jobs better. Another technology that doctors are using and others are VR and AR. They're using it in surgery. They're using it in practice for surgery. I'm wondering if you've seen anything new in AR, VR, mixed reality that you want to share with the group.
Throwing it over to you.
Yeah, I honestly,
either way.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check out the new HTC Vive headset, but I'm really excited to go and look at that. I think that both HTC and Oculus, disclosure, my wife works for Oculus, are moving really fast this year to have full inside-out tracking and get more processing power in a VR headset, so that you don't have to be tethered to a computer. But the question of VR this year, I think, is the question that there's been for VR for the past 4 years is, get it out of the I'll use it for 15 minutes for a demo into a utility that exists for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. I think medical things might be interesting for that. Gaming is clearly a place for that. But I hate to use the cliche, but is there a quote-unquote killer app for VR? We've been asking that since the outset, and we still don't have an obvious answer. There's lots of potential answers, there's lots of pretty good answers, but there's no obvious answer that everybody knows yet.
I'm still in the 15-minute demo mode, and I was over at the Sony booth yesterday playing around with the game, and it was fun, and I could see, I have a 4-year-old, and I could see him enjoying it for a couple minutes, although I think he's
He's
too
not
young.
supposed to.
Yeah, he's not supposed to. But man, I really want him to because it's fun. Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of weird. I would watch a VR movie, but it can't just be a VR movie. It has to be a good movie with an interesting story, and that hasn't happened yet.
On the AR side, I guess the most interesting thing here is North is here. They do AR glasses. It puts just a single pretty static display in front of your eye about here, and they look relatively normal. They've got a showcase store in Toronto and Brooklyn. And so they should be shipping, I think, pretty soon based on the suitcase of glasses they're carrying around for people to try.
Are they here in LVCC or over in Tech
They
West?
might be in the LVCC. They were at the PepCom show last night for sure. So they're around. They've been wandering around. And that to me is more compelling than the full-on VR experience because it doesn't interfere with your life. You could just if the battery dies on the things, you still have glasses, right? And so that's useful.
I have to say, I think VR for us, we're spoiled. We live in a really amazing environment where really cool things in real life. That virtual reality is probably not as enticing to us as somebody who, let's say, lives in the middle of the country and doesn't have access to all the amazing things that we do. So I think that the potential is really there for VR, but it's harder for people like us to see who get access to this world. Where AR, I think, has a lot of really interesting applications. It's clear to see the potential for that, whether it be a heads-up display or kind of screens just being able to do so much more these days, that I think that like you're saying, the killer app is so much clearer in that space, whereas for VR, we haven't yet seen it.
So we only have a couple minutes left, which is a bummer, because I'm enjoying this and I'm running a lot from you. I want to know where you're headed next. I want to know where you're going after this stage, what you're going to check out. And you'll have a group of people following you.
I think we should do a field trip. Everybody can follow all of us. Where do you want to go?
I actually did show floor tours for a while, so I'm a professional. I'm licensed. I can walk you guys around both the convention center and Sans Aria with my eyes closed.
I gotta go write some stuff. So that'll be the very next thing. And then
I felt like we were all going to say work and it was going to be boring.
No, I'm gonna head back out to the show floor and I'm gonna see if I can look at the auto section because I haven't had enough chance to really engage with the auto side of the show yet, and so that's my next thing.
I am probably going to go over to the wall of TVs over there, and then Garmin had a new had a new fitness watch with LTE in it, which I want to check out. And then
it also has fall detection, I think.
Oh, cool!
I believe.
And then maybe go back to Tech West because I'm trying to find if is there one really great STEM learning toy. There's a bunch of them. They all seem kind of the same.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the standout one.
Okay, you have a 4-year-old and...
Just a 4-year-old.
Okay, just a 4-year-old. We'll talk
I have a
talk
4-year-old
afterwards.
and a headache.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today on stage. I hope you have a really amazing rest of your show, and I hope our paths cross on the show floor.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, now you still have time to be CES ready, and we're here to help. You can download the CES app. You can build your personal agenda, highlight your favorite exhibitors and speakers. You can also sync in time across all your devices. And new this year, you can connect to your LinkedIn account and see which connections of yours are also in Las Vegas at CES. The show runs through this Friday, January 11th here in Las Vegas. The information you need is at ces.tech. As always, none of this is possible without our podcasting stars, producer Tina Anthony, and engineer John Lindsay. You all are the best in the business. Thanks so much for being with us here at CES. I'm Tyler Suiters. Let's talk tech again soon.